You saw that with Lil Nas X or whoever it is. He had to go through the archway into his concert, and he was right above the archway.
You got it. Exactly. This is a repeating theme over and over and over. And so we have to be wise to what they're doing, and also to the vulnerabilities of the people around us. So think of all the children, youth that are being branded in their mind, in their soul with certain imagery. They may not fully comprehend the full meaning of it, yet it's there. And then at critical moments in their life, the devil himself can pull up and call up certain things, and all of a sudden they think that they had an original idea or something. It's like putting the dates and times of certain events like 9/11. 9/11 had to be branded into the soul of America, so that when the event happened, they came to certain conclusions about it, and it was in the Hollywood, other things, the 9/11 phone system, which was emergency brought in, the currency, the paper that we put in our pockets, all those talismans. When you fold it certain ways, there's the buildings, there's the fire. It sounds crazy, it sounds bizarre, but these are very sophisticated operations that are multi-generational to create illusions, because the people behind them are wizards, and they hope to capture our minds and our souls. And in fact, the true birth date of Christ is 9/11, 3 BC. And so that 9/11 date needs to be vilified from a demonic perspective, from the devil's perspective itself. And you can say, oh, no, it was spring, or it was whatever. Look, I can have the conversation, but here's where you don't understand. Within the cults that we are fighting, within those bloodline cults, they have determined, they know, they believe that the true birth date of Christ, and I believe it is correct, is 9/11, 3 BC. So that's why they chose that date. They had to vilify it. You want to argue the rest of it? Fine. It's their religion. How many things within a religion, if you're not part of the religion, seem wonky or you don't get it? Okay? You try to understand somebody else's religion and you're an outsider. It takes time to kind of get all the nuances like that. I'm just telling you, that's their religion. That's how they think.
Right.
If you understand your enemy, then you're better prepared to engage them. If you don't understand them, you'll get snookered. You'll get caught by surprise because you don't understand what the basis is for a lot of the things that they do, and why they do them, and when they do them, and things like that. So knowing your enemy, knowing how they think is a key part of winning the war, if you will.
Right. And, Wannabe, I call him Wannabe, he's always trying to hijack God's stuff, right? It says in the new heavens and earth, there is neither male nor female, okay? They're Baphomet, right? Male, female, transgender stuff. It's so obvious. They're just trying to hijack God's plans, right? And trying to twist it and manipulate it and make it a bad thing in terms of what God's doing, okay? So it's like, it doesn't surprise me. They're such freaks. I call them freaks. They are.
Well, they are. And let me just add this one thing. In the current moment that we're in, with a lot of the stuff that we're dealing with, and we kind of track some of the players and watch what they're doing that are trying to get into, if you will, the patriot movement. And we've seen a repeating theme over the last decade. And it goes away and it comes back, and it goes away and it comes back.
Huh.
Kind of a cycle that we've actually identified even by seasons of transgenders. These are not people who want to get the operation. They don't want to actually try to become the other sex. And there's there's people that are under the grip. I would say that it's demonic, but they have psychological issues or whatever. They believe that God put them in the wrong body, and that God made a mistake. And, I have sincere, genuine, emotion for those people for where they're at. It's a horrible thing once they become convinced of something like that. Can you imagine? I had a friend years ago who literally the doctor said she was allergic to her own blood. And so she was just having a continuous reaction to it. You're in a suit that's got blood, that the blood coursing through your veins is having an allergic reaction with your skin and other things. But for somebody that maybe thinks that they're in the wrong body, I can see how that would just, you get to a certain point, is it, real? Well, hey, we know they're putting drugs in the water supply, and that those drugs are having crazy effects on people in the growing stages and things like that. So I'm very careful to be judgmental. I would rather be prayerful for people in that kind of situation and to seek divine assistance to get them out of that crisis. But that's not who I'm talking about right now. These people that are actually wanting to be Baphomets, like Michael, Michelle, he doesn't want to get the operation. He wants to be both. Why? Because he's in service to his father, the devil, who's both, and serving a very specific role. That's why they want to put their Baphomet statues all around the country, and in the political places for all of the public. Their hoofed male, female god, the bull, and so the Baal, if you will. And with that in mind, we've seen within the movement a number of people who literally portray as a woman, a few of them portraying as a man that are women, but mostly men trying to portray themselves as women, right in plain sight, and trying to infiltrate what's going on. Some more obviously, and acknowledging that they're doing the change, and others that are hidden, pretending, and hoping nobody understands their history. But they've tried to infiltrate and then to pull to themselves the community to follow them, follow their lead, and they'll take us where they're supposed to go. And the early ones that we found we were able to track to a very specific sex cult coming through New York, from Toronto, from England, and a wife swapping group that had ties into the intelligence communities in Britain, Canada, and the US, and later found connections into other countries by the same people. I think that they have multiplied significantly, and so we're seeing more of those players trying to infiltrate what we're doing. Why would that be this chosen modus operandi? It's because the devil likes to hide in plain sight.
Right.
And then part of what has to happen is that you have to see something, but then make a choice. Am I going to go along with the subterfuge, the lie, something I know or I sense my gut's telling me is going a certain way, but I'm going to ignore those proddings, those urgings, that divine insight and information. I'm going to ignore that and just go with the way it's presented to me. So, for example, we had a transgender, a Baphomet, in the White House as FLOTUS for 8 years. And even the presidency is 4 years, 4 years. It's a breaking the 8 number. The reason that they needed that is they needed everybody to be in denial of what should be obvious. And you have to turn off your senses. You have to push down things that you would question and stop questioning and go along with. It's part of the mentality, like the king has no clothes.
Right.
That you must, in order to be a good servant, if you're good, you're not going to say anything because everybody else, there's a group think and they all believe that the clothes are the most beautiful. You must not be a faithful member of the kingdom. If you were, you'd see the clothes. So there must be something wrong with you. And are you the one that's the screw up, or is everybody around you the screw up? Is everybody around you seeing something you don't, and now you can't go along to get along? And that's this pushing down the obvious. So putting a Baphomet in the White House is part of causing you to stop exercising your faculties correctly and to go along with the story. It's part of this satanic demonic thing, and so taking that out to the next steps, that then is intended to become pervasive in society, that we must accept that throughout the military, throughout Hollywood, throughout the political arena, throughout business and the rest of our contacts, and then allow that the devil has access to our children to do the same with them, because we've accepted it at a certain level. You get the devil's nose under the edge of the tent, and next thing you know, you got the whole camel in there, right?
Right.
So you can't let that happen. That's what's going on here. And so that Baphomet mentality, spirit, demonology, if you say that something's come through the archway and is now pervasive within society, within the community, it would be that demonic Baphomet spirit. And that's what we're seeing even in the Patriot movement with certain of the players that are trying to get prominent roles and acceptance right in plain sight. And that's something that we're tracking. So just food for thought for everybody.
Yeah, I was going to say, not to shift gears too much, but as you know, I've sponsored our company, Midas Skull Group. We've sponsored Kelli for a little over a year now, and I've gotten to know her audience. Right, we do a lot of business with them, and it's a big family. We're all just on the same team. Common question I get is, what is the financial meltdown going to look like? Like, what is going to happen? Can you give us a rough idea? Is gold and silver the right place to be? How is this all going to play out? And is it going to happen this year?
Okay, it's a very important question. I mean, and obviously I expected it because of what we're doing here. So it wasn't planned or something like that. And now a 30-second commercial.
Hey, wait, Juan, don't forget to talk about your new coin too. I already ordered. Yeah.
We'll get to that somewhere in here. I sometimes get in trouble because I don't mention anything about that stuff because I get so preoccupied. Then I get reminded, well, you could have mentioned that. And I just get going. But I guess because we're here, we got the 2023 coin, which was the Megador. Right. And that was a lot of fun, and had several thousand of them out there. And then we stopped that at the 31st of January. Of December. Right. We do have a 2024 version of that coin that will come out, but it's a few months out, and it's just fun because of the date and all that. Early adopters, it's kind of when did you figure this out and join it? And I think it's kind of fun. Right. And it's beautiful for, as a challenge coin like that. So we got a lot of fun with the pure silver ounce. And our next coin is a complement to that. And I think it's spectacular. And I was hoping to reveal it to your audience today, but they still have something in the die that we wanted to change slightly, and it's not quite done. So somewhere here in the next few days, we'll release that. And I think we kept the pre-release sale going to give your people today to do that because I was doing this interview, but that'll get shut down, and it'll be the same coin. We'll just release in a few days and actually show the imagery of it.
Right.
And like that, but there's for people who want to get the first batches that are out there, that's why we were doing this early release. But that's a lot of fun. So when you see it, I think you'll be very. If you have the one, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's exactly why we did it the way we did it, and it's very fun. So with that in mind, at this exact moment, Matt, let me kind of come at this from a little different direction, and let me do what I do. If your audience would just give me a little license to kind of go around this a little bit and come back to that question.
Sure.
I think it's important because a lot of times, look, you can go to anybody else's show, you can go listen to anybody else, and they can pontificate. Here's the way it's going to be. It's going to happen this day at this time. That's
Right.
and it's all done. Okay.
No.
Well, then go listen to them. That's fine. I'm trying to give the people that I talk to out there a bit of perspective. How did we get here? What's the rest of the dynamics that are in play that affect how we're going forward in different areas, including the monetary system? If you understand that, it helps you to get mentally in a zone where I think you're better prepared and you make decisions that are informed decisions, as opposed to just having a guru who tells you just do this and you have to just trust them. You have a sophisticated audience here. Both you, Matt, and Kelli have audiences that they seek to know truth. They dig deeper. These things are like fine gold where you're sifting and doing the work to get to these truths. That you've earned what you have because you know it in your heart. It wasn't just told to you.
Right.
And so I think it honors this type of an audience to try to do a broader explanation, and then the rest of you that find it tedious or whatever, I get that. I sometimes I just don't have time. So you want the short version? If you don't get your head out of your fucking ass, you're about to get your head handed to you on a plate. Okay? Excuse me. This is going to be biblical. Okay. So that took care of that audience. They all left now. We can have the rest of the conversation. Okay. And let me just dance around a few different places before I get to the kind of pull it all together. You have a sign net where you throw this huge net out and it's got a rope that goes all the way around the edge of it. And then you start pulling it in and it catches all the fish and the exit route closes as you're pulling it to you. And so I'll try to throw a big net out and then pull it all together for you as I bring it all together. For example, here in Argentina, an interesting thing happened with the new president and group that came into power. And we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, and I'll have more talks here before I leave and come back. But they did something interesting right off the bat. Argentina is one of those places that continuously has monetary issues because politicians spend more than they got. They anticipate more than they're going to get. There's a lot of graft and greed and groups that have their hands in the cookie jar. That's why every time I come down here, I look for a monster cookie. They're all gone. Somebody else already got there first. But what they did when they came into power, what this group did, and I'm going to be real careful here as a courtesy to friends like that, but read between the lines. The decree came down essentially that businesses were free to transact their business without going through the choke point of the Argentine currency. They could conduct their business in any currency that was mutually agreeable between businesses and business people in Argentina and other countries. And so think of oil. When we switched from a gold-backed dollar to an oil-backed dollar, it actually made sense. Kissinger's the one that led the negotiations with OPEC. Kissinger's a Rockefeller associate going back to his very origins. In fact, when Nixon lost, didn't lose, but was said to have lost, it was corruption in Chicago on the vote that put Kennedy in and didn't put Nixon in. But Nixon went to work at a law firm in New York. And in that law firm, on one side of the building, it had an address on one street. On the other side of the building, it had an address on the other side. But actually, it was one building with this hallway that went through from one side to the other. And on one side of the building, Nixon had his office. Just a little ways down the hall, Kissinger had his office. Just a little ways down the hall, David Rockefeller had his office. It was really the same operation. And when Nixon came into power, who did he get for his Secretary of State? Kissinger.
Right.
He's the one that's going out and racing around the world and helping to do the negotiations. And by the way, and I could be on this for 20 hours, but I'm just skipping through a few little things that I've talked about previously. What was the context of the moment when Nixon came into power? Why didn't he have to fight LBJ for the presidency? LBJ withdrew from the Democratic nomination process in early May. They, of course, Bobby Kennedy was on the rise, and he was headed for the nomination, the presidency. He was very popular. And of course, we know what happened there with him being assassinated. But why didn't Johnson run for the presidency? He had been foaming at the mouth, maniacal about getting to the presidency, involved with the group that committed the murder, and other things prior to that where murder was involved. He was a very corrupt, evil man. Why did he withdraw from running for the presidency? Because on March 11th, just after midnight of 1968, in the Pacific Ocean, 390 miles north of Pearl Harbor, a very important number, 3993. The love number, according to Crowley, is 93. What is it? Why is it so important? Why is it so critical to everything that they want to do? It's a reverse 39. Everything's mirrored. It's all about the flip. What's the 39? 3 times 13. The 13 bloodline families. In witchcraft, in the demonology, any spell, concoction that you create, if you want to magnify it, you can magnify it up to 3 times. So if the witch does some magic concoction, if she does some magic spell and she wants it to have more power, she turns 3 times in the circle. When you go to seek entry to the House of Lords, the chamber, you knock 3 times on the door. It's this 3, okay? 3 times the magical bloodline families of Cain, the Cains of the earth, is 39. Why did we, when it was this magic of a moon launch, Apollo 11, there was 11 left after Judas betrayed Christ, and the world went into confusion. 11's the number of war. Why did they launch the Apollo spacecraft from launch pad 39? And by the way, it was 39A and 39B. There was 2 of them. Why didn't they have launch pad 38 and 39, or 39 and 40? Why did it have to be 39? Because it's this magic number. It had to be on the numbers. It had to be by the ritual. Okay, you see this over and over again. Yep. So in this missile launch north of Hawaii, 390 miles north, dropped the 0. this 3993 number.
Mm.
Just after midnight on 3/11, another magic number.
Wow.
11.
Right.
There was a missile that was launched from a hijacked Russian-Soviet submarine.
Right.
And that missile launch, nuclear missile, was headed for Pearl Harbor. It blew up, leaving the submarine. And we know it for a whole bunch of reasons. I won't waste all the time on it. When it was detected, known, and then was searched out by another submarine called the Turtleback, which had, like, if any of you remember the Sea Hunt, or not, whatever it was, the Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea TV show. They had the sub with the doors that opened up underwater, and you could have another sub leave it. Well, it was that type of a situation on the sub. It could be underwater, it could open up, could launch mapping drones on a cable down to the seafloor. And when they detected nuclear radiation in the waters north of Hawaii in another research vessel, miraculously, and lots of stuff going on here, they went out, searched, and then they finally found the source, which was this Russian sub on the bottom of the ocean. It's loosely part of the story that Tom Clancy's trying to describe in Hunt for Red October. It's not Red October is actually a hybrid. I remember talking with him about this for way back when, and he did a hybridized version of a couple stories, and this is one of them. And when this Russian sub, which was K-129, another ritual number, when K-129 launched that missile, and it blew up in the launch tube, and then it went to the bottom of the ocean. And by the way, you'll get a kick out of this, Kelly. What time was it in Washington, D.C. at the time that our president was killed?
1:29 Eastern.
That's right. It had to be done on the numbers. It's a ritual. It's a crucial number. It has so much meaning. You cannot even begin to understand the magnitude. Why would they do things at those precise numbers all the time? Because they believe when they do things like rocket launches, tests, particular maneuvers, if they orchestrate it based on the numbers, they get extra power. They gate demonic energy from the spirit realm into their event because they do a ritual or rituals all focused on that number, that timing, to show their alliance, their allegiance to the God that they serve, Satan, Lucifer, the devil. And so the numbers are absolutely critical to do the spell. It's like, mixing things together in the cauldron, and it takes, eye of Nu, wing of, this and that. And by the way, the whole point is they're combining DNA to get a particular frequency, because all DNA resonates at different frequencies for different things, and so they combine them together to hit a certain frequency. So anyway, the numbers are crucial in this ritual where the sub tried to launch this missile and then was blown up and then was discovered. When the photographs, the images of the seafloor where the sub was located, were returned to Washington, D.C., and LBJ saw that it was real, that he, as president, was nearly in the position where, imagine that the missile had gone, hit Pearl Harbor, who would they think? Who would be the one that we would blame it on? Well, the range where it was shot from was just exactly inside the maximum range of a Gulf 1 Russian submarine, the first generation of submarines capable of firing missiles from sea. China had purchased 2 Golf 1 submarines when Russia and China were friendlier in the early 60s, able to launch these missiles with this range. The Golf 2 submarines, which this was in fact a Golf 2 submarine, trying to conduct the launch, it had a range with their missiles of double out there at about 780 miles. So had the missile been fired from further out, it would have been obvious China couldn't have fired that. It had to be the Russians. And the satellite observation systems, all the tracking, everything else were far more archaic in that age,
Right.
in the mid 60s. So the likelihood you'd be able to exactly identify the origin, what was really happening was a false flag was being set up to blame China for an attack on America there at Pearl Harbor, a second Pearl Harbor. And what was going on? We're in the middle of Southeast Asian wars. And with LBJ there, LBJ literally realized everything that President Kennedy was trying to come against, where he, as he was in the office, felt that he was being manipulated. And with his faith, he was afraid that he was going to be conned and scammed into starting World War III and killing millions and millions and millions of lives, and that the intelligence agencies, the military, the Dulles brothers, which is where I'm going in just a minute, were conning him into leading nuclear war on the world, some massive destruction. And when LBJ realized that in his quest for power, he nearly became Hitler, Stalin, the greatest mass murderer in history, it so shocked him. He said, because of the war in Southeast Asia, he has to take all of his time to do that. He's not going to seek the nomination. And he stepped back. And when he left the White House, he grew a ponytail. He started smoking marijuana. He couldn't sleep at night. It drove him mad because he realized in his quest for power, he nearly condemned himself to the deepest portions of hell as one of the greatest mass murderers, perhaps even the greatest mass murderer in history.
Wow.
Had he reacted to what happened to K-129. But the other side of the coin is Kissinger had actually written a paper in the 50s that was literally his entree to power within this cabal system of these very, very, very wealthy families.
Right.
And his paper described how a false flag could accidentally bring the world into some massive conflict. And the false flag would force America, the greatest power on the earth, to attack someone that wasn't the actual perpetrator of some evil, dastardly nuclear act, but we would react to it and take out our enemy's enemy for him. Drug crime families do this all the time. They try to set up the other crime family for something and get the police to do their bidding for them to take out their opposition. Happens all the time. Well, it was the same thing at the nation state level. That's what Kissinger was writing about. And so he literally, over a decade before, wrote the roadmap to K-129 with a twist that you don't actually blow up Pearl Harbor. You just have to discover the plot in a way that nobody can argue with, and then use that as a tool to force China to begin to engage with you from walled off isolation behind the wall. And so in K-129, as we had the images and we approached China, hey, these commie pinko Russians, your enemy, tried to set you up. We almost blew you to smithereens. We'd have taken you off the map. We need to open up communications between us so that this doesn't actually happen, so there can't be a mistake like this. Who led the way? Kissinger. Who led the way? Nixon. Only Nixon could go to China because he was armed with the right stuff, the pictures, the imagery. The Chinese didn't believe it. They thought they were being conned on the submarine stuff. And so they actually had observers. Why did we have to go out with Glomar Explorer, Project Clementine, various aspects of this very complex project, more difficult than going to the moon, equated with going to Mars, building a machine, a ship, the most complex device ever created by man, to go out and pick up an entire submarine off the seafloor 17,000 feet down and lift it intact to be brought back to be examined, supposedly for a few code books and other stuff, and to see some of the technology that was all knockoffs of stuff we had. It's all bullshit. What was the real thing? The Chinese didn't believe it. They wouldn't believe it from a camera till they saw it. So and approved this most expensive thing, and it was all done by the CIA. All the money was run through there with the cooperation of Howard Hughes, who was the biggest contractor to the intelligence community at the time with TRW. And using him as cover to go out and recover magnesium nodules off the seafloor, supposedly in a mining project. And they didn't just have one vessel. Once again, just like the Titanic and the Olympic, they had two. And they looked almost identical. And they had the two research vessels, Glomar Explorer and another one, and they're out in a similar region, a few hundred miles apart, and playing charades and hide the nut and in a shell game. And they went out with two Chinese observers present on the ship, and they raised the Russian sub. And then people thought, they gave a cover story when this was disclosed and made public, that the sub broke in half and fell back. All the critical stuff fell back to the ocean floor, which was completely false. They got the entire sub, and that was proven for those people that have read the books and they know all about it and they know exactly what they're talking about. Well, I'm going to tell you, it's full of shit. We gave the bell, which is in the conning tower, 2K129, to the Russians. In the Bush administration and Bush too, because they'd been out to the site. They looked for the remnants of the sub when we said it broke in half, and it wasn't there. They knew we had the whole thing, and we chopped it, sliced it, diced it, got everything, and then dumped the remnants of the sub in an area off the coast of Hawaii, in a ritual, by the way. And by the way, when we recovered it, just to come back to who we are as a people,
right?
When we got the submarine, the bodies of those that were in the submarine, as we recovered it, we literally had a funeral service, a mass, and buried those men at sea with their comrades exactly at the site where the sub sank. We did that out of respect, even though you would say these are enemies. They did what we had a burial ceremony. It was very solemn, somber, and all of those present did service to men who had died in combat in a particular way, who may not have had real cooperation with this. The sub was hijacked, and most of the crew was confined to a forward area of the ship.
Wow.
And the people that were on there doing this, I believe it was 14, were involved in the actual missile launch. And just as an aside, one of the things that Khrushchev had done, because he was afraid of his own people, and successfully done, it's contended, had put a safety that would not allow a missile launch to occur without a particular code being entered beforehand that was only known at those highest locations. The reality is, if you go at it from a globalista standpoint, people pulling the strings above Premier Khrushchev, because he actually wasn't running things. He had people above him. That was there so that when they did the launch exactly as was intended, it blew up. at a precise location that could then be known and then begin the thing. And then when China wouldn't cooperate just based on the imagery, we spent the money to raise the sub and show it to them. And then they believed, and then they opened up China.
Sun brings heat, till then storm time. See the 23. Punisher logo should be on their mind, no mercy. That ship sailed long ago, all around the globe. Comfort NY. Yeah, put one in NY. Let the cure spread wide. Chloroquine. All I hear is Q win. Storm is upon us. Joe M. Dog days on the way. Hot dogs, Pizzagate. Gates of hell, some say. Pope, gonna have a rough May. Good people will say. Babylon roam around LA. Ping pong, St. James. Enough is enough. Q Mat Pub, drink it up. Celebrate like we at the pub. St. Patty's on the 17th. Makes sense why the castle green. Know what I mean? Think big, better buy in bulk. Q Grow, gonna meet the Hulk. 4 members on the A team, on a 10 on the Q team. They do a few things. Got a 6 in the future back. Hit the deck when you hear the rap. Cassette roll, know that's a rap. I'll make you bounce like a dead cat. What you think of that? 9 lives, maybe 6'3". Looking glass in energy. Future dark for the enemy. Peter Park when the web is free. Lennon let it be. Lennon let it be. Want beef, can't meet with the free speech. Anon's been online but with no reach. Well, times change when Q push release. Times change when Q push release. Got a lot to teach. Turn a new leaf. Storm time, sunshine like a nude beach. I mean, we feeling free. So free, quarantine like Fiji. That's why I jot it down on a loose leaf. Shitstorm, Putin pass the ball. Pokemon Trump caught 'em all. TP gone, another sick fall. We had enough, lure up, better call Saul. Bone spurs for the Yale Club. Can't duck it like Madonna's tub. Watch water for the dirty stuff. Fed sink, so Titanic tough. Play poker, trump card, stack chips up. Fed's dead, Q plus, had enough. And he don't bluff. Chairs serve real master in the chess club. With that golden touch. Musical chairs till the beat stop. Silence golden, so we got a lot.